Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. There's a lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Now, it's a really, really interesting subject. In these uncertain times, we often talk about prepping. What about if from about $1,000, that's an investment of about $1,000 US, you could set up a self-sustaining system which would provide you with enough food for your family produced throughout the year in your own suburban backyard. I mean, hey, that's prepping, let's face it. So just quickly, what is aquaponics? Well, many definitions of aquaponics recognize the ponics part of this word for hydroponics, which is growing plants in water with a soil-less media. Hydroponics is its own growing method with pros and cons. Literally speaking, aquaponics is putting fish to work. It just so happens that the work these fish do, i.e. eating and producing waste, is the perfect fertilizer for growing plants. And man, fish can grow a lot of plants when they get to work. One of the coolest things about aquaponics is that it mimics a natural ecosystem. Aquaponics represents a relationship between water, aquatic life, bacteria, nutrient dynamics, and plants which grow together in waterways all over the world. Now, I'm going to show you a short video which will give you an idea of just how incredibly effective this system is. Let's have a look.
People have a false sense of food security because we go to the grocery store and there's basically always food there.
This is Mike Strait, and he's on a mission to reimagine the way we farm.
Large-scale agriculture has pesticides, uses a huge amount of fossil fuels, and is really rough on the planet.
There are lots of companies working on high-tech alternatives to traditional farming, but not quite like this. Instead of shipping produce from a farm in another part of the world, this founder wants to put the farm in a shipping container that can fit in your parking lot.
We're trying to feed the world one pot at a time by hyper-localizing farming and taking a farm and putting it right in front of the place that needs to use it.
FarmPod is a company that aims to increase food availability by combining vertical farming and automation with the help from an interesting source, fish.
We've kind of lost our connection to where our food comes from. We're taking it that whole extra step and we're saying the relationship with the farmer is you. I don't know that we have an option for not succeeding. We have to make this work or we're not all going to get fed. All right, let's go. You going to show them the pod?
Mike Straight is the CEO and creator of FarmPod, and he developed a way to grow food indoors in a pretty tight space.
All right, this is upstairs in a farm pod where all the plants live. By controlling the environment inside of something like this, we don't have to worry about it being too hot or too cold.
The FarmPod grows food aquaponically, which means their secret ingredient is actually fish poop.
You have fish in the bottom, the fish produce nutrients into the water. The water's flowing down through these towers, going through the plants. Inside of these towers is like a large filter material. Once the plants start absorbing it, this all then flows back down into the fish tanks downstairs. It's just constantly recirculating. We use 95% less water than traditional farming. A product like this has to be simple to operate. And if it's not simple to operate, it'll never get adopted.
The system allows users to grow produce without much work because it's automated.
You can run a farm pod on about 5 hours a week of labor. And then we have it all report to your smartphone, so it makes it easy. Yeah, here's the graph of it. It's a lot easier to control a system because we're imitating nature here. Hey, I just wanted to check if that last catfish...
There you go, guys. That's just a bit of an outline as to what it's all about. And I'm going to get our guest on. That's Ruann Swart from the Vereeniging Gymnasium. And let's get the show on the road. Here we go. Hi, Ruann.
How are you, Scott?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. How are you?
Fine, thanks. And yourself? Oh, I already said fine, thank you.
That's okay. Not a problem. I can't see you at the moment. Your camera's not on.
Is it on now?
That's better. Yeah, that's perfect.
There we go.
That's perfect. I was just playing a short video about what is aquaponics and just give you a bit of a background. Now, I think this is absolutely brilliant. You know, it just ticks so many boxes, doesn't it, doing aquaponics in a school setting. Before we actually get into what you're doing at Vereeniging, the history of aquaponics traces back to about 1000 AD, I believe, or even earlier, to a time when the ancient peoples found a way to grow food while keeping in mind the natural relationship of fish and animals. Now, would you like to just give us a bit of background to how aquaponics has come into modern day life?
The main thing would be technology and the use of technology. Most modern people, we have our cell phones, we have digital libraries now. And so we've started to realize we've went out of the world will sustain us. And we've gone into a process that we can sustain the world. We can actually help our environment. We can grow more green crops. We can actually reduce our pollution and our investment. And this has come after the baby boomers, if I can say so myself. Gen X, Gen Z, the newer generations have realized the world, our resources are not endless. Thus, we need to actually invest into our earth and everything. And with that comes aquaponics and hydroponics. The investment we can actually do from that by being in a symbiotic relationship within the plants, the fish, and the whole environment actually benefits us, the animals, the water, the whole system. As you noted before, 1,000 years ago, or more even than 1,000 years ago, the ancient Aztecs were actually using this to implement with their crops. So this is not something that's new. It's not something that has just popped up. It's just something that has gotten lost in the tides of time. Because normal farming seemed like that's the way to go. We've got the earth, we've got the space, let's plant a lot of crops. But now we started to realize, hey guys, space is running out. Farming is hazardous to the environment. There's a lot of fertilizer being used, a lot of insecticides, and a whole lot of things that are being implemented that it's actually not that good for us and the environment.
Yeah. Now, if you've got a backyard pool, especially if you're not using that backyard pool, that's a perfect starting point for aquaponics, because you've already got a container where you can keep the fish in the water. But we'll get back to that, because that backyard pool, from what we were talking about earlier, would produce enough food for your entire family right throughout the year. It's quite extraordinary.
If everything is implemented correctly, as you said, it'll sustain you for the year. But now the thing is, you must make sure that you have the right crops, the correct fish, the correct size, the oxygen. So it's definitely what you say. You can sustain a whole family easily, and it doesn't take up space. That space is already used, and it can sustain you throughout the whole year.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Now, okay, so the difference between aquaponics and hydroponics is the fish. Do you want to just take us through the two different types of ponics? Because that seems to be the operative word.
Hydroponics is not something new. You'll see Woolworths and a large amount of the stores in South Africa have actually been using lettuce, things like this. It's basically growing plants in water. Now, they usually add minerals or they throw something into the water to feed the plants. Now, aquaponics is by including the fish into a pool, into the circulation system, where the excrement, the feces of the fish, if I can say it as bluntly as that, is then filtered through the system, which then the plants absorb the nitrogen as fertilizer. So aquaponics basically is the addition of fish into this whole system, and hydroponics is just, instead of growing plants on earth or in earth, it's using water and letting their roots suspended into the water actually absorb the minerals and everything they need to grow.
Right. Now, what I love about this project is that it's so hands-on. When I was setting up interactive presentations, this is back in the late 1980s, the Department of Education came to me, this is in Perth, Western Australia, and they said, Scott, can you produce these little modules on a computer where the kids, these are the kids who were slow learners, can actually interactively prepare a barbecue. So they have to do a budget, and they have to, and we had spreadsheets and all sorts of stuff. So they were actively doing stuff while learning math, and that worked so successfully. Now, what you're doing here is you're producing something that's really, really useful for these kids in their future lives, something they'll never forget. But at the same time, it dovetails so beautifully with their what they've got to learn anyway. For example, aquaponics is the perfect teaching tool for core STEM subjects like maths, biology, chemistry, and engineering. Do you want to take us through that and what other benefits come to students?
Okay, first of all, we are a very academical and vocational school, so we have a variety of subjects from hospitality studies, mechanical studies, IT, computer sciences, economics. We've got the whole variety of everything. Now, just running an aquaponics farm is not just fish. It's not fish in the water. There's a lot of things that go with this. The electrical systems, the managing of the books, as you said, biology, chemistry, testing the water. So this is hands-on science. Learners need to learn, okay, this is how we set up a pump. This is how we filter the water. This is how we test the water. This is how we cook the fish. As we have hospitality studies, we actually use these crops. So it's very vocational, and even the academic sciences, like mathematics, languages, this is a business. This is a business children can implement. This is a business children can run. This is what we're trying to teach them, not just the hydroponics and aquaponics part, but everything goes hand in hand. All the subject, everything is implemented. Let's be honest, in today's modern world, you cannot have one thing without the other. Language is invested in mathematics. Mathematics is invested in agricultural sciences. And the cycle goes on. We need all our knowledge to be implemented. And as you said, because this is hands-on, this is not a video we're showing them. We take them to the pool. We let them test. We let them see the fish. We let them plant. So by the time they are finished with our course, they are actually well suited to go into the adult world with skills they can actually implement and make an impact in their direct community.
Absolutely fantastic. And, you know, you touched on something there that is so important in their later lives, and that is economics, marketing, nutrition. These are all things that they will be using later on in their lives. And these are all critical to the success of having a commercial aquaponics business, isn't it?
It is. The problem is in today's life, if I can mention the generations again, the new generation is called Zoomers for a reason. Everything rushes by them so quickly. So this is our part of just saying, okay, slow down. Let's teach you something for the community. Let's teach you something for the economy. Let's get the economy teachers in here. Let's get the hospitality teachers in here and actually show you this is not theoretical. This is practical. This is what you will use in life.
Yeah.
One day you will have children and you can care for them. This is not a short-term investment. This is us investing in the long term, not just for this generation, for the next one as well.
Now, it was interesting when we were chatting earlier. I said, wow, this sounds really expensive. And you said, no. You said to set up a system in your backyard, if you've got a pool that you can use, it will cost you about $1,000. I mean, that's nothing, isn't it?
If you look at groceries, the price of anything you actually buy now, fresh, organic produce, it's expensive. And doing that each month, it'll actually rack up a bill way more than setting up a system and actually investing in yourself, because this is an investment for yourself and your future. And the better you do it, the more crops you get, medical bills drop, electricity bills drop, everything drops. You can actually care for yourself, your immediate family, and hey, even maybe your neighbors. But this is all about you. And as we spoke about costs earlier, yes, $1,000 might seem like a lot of money for somebody just starting up. But if you think about it, as I said, this is an investment not just for a month. This is not a petty project. This is something you can do for 10, 12, 13, 14 years. That means it works you out about $100 a year, and that's without investing in groceries or any produce. This is money back in your pocket.
Yeah, well, I was actually doing some research on how much money you save with a backyard aquaponics system. And if you're producing enough food for the family, which is quite achievable, you're saving about $1,000 plus, so about 20,000 Rand a year in food costs. And
exactly.
As you say, you've taken that over, let's say, 10 years, that's 200,000 Rand you're saving at an investment of 15,000 Rand. As Bill Gates famously once said, you know, getting back into vaccines was the best thing I ever did, because for every dollar I spend, I get $20 back. And basically, we're talking about a very similar scenario here for people who invest in aquaponics. And of course, you always have the fun of looking at the fish too, don't you?
Depends on your perspective of fun. Some people, if you're like my wife, you despise it. But for other people, they love it. So, But I agree with you. If you look at my daughter, she absolutely adores it. But my wife, we might have a difference of opinion there.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what makes the school unique? I'm talking about can you give us I know it's called Vereeniging Gymnasium. Is that the name of the school, or is that the name of the aquaponics project?
No, the school is Vereeniging Gymnasium or Gymnasium. What makes the school unique, as I said, we offer probably the most subjects in South Africa, definitely in Gauteng, where we're located. We have a full vocational branch of the school. That will be your mechanical studies, electronics, electrical, hospitality studies, agricultural studies. And we have a full academical branch as well, and then a technical branch as well. So we offer all three legs of the educational system, the full curriculum, from grade 8 up into 12, we are only one of 10 schools in Gauteng that offers these subjects, but we have the most in the country. So that makes us a little bit of a unique case, and let's be honest, the hydroponics and aquaponics puts us on the map. We're the only school doing it on this scale. We have a variety of sports, we have a variety of cultural activities, academic results. Basically, if you can throw something at a wall and it sticks, it's us. If it sticks at academics, that's us. Cultural. We are basically a jack of all trades. We try and do everything because our motto is every learner is unique. Everyone has something special.
If you can throw something at a wall and it sticks and it works.
It works, it's us.
That's lovely. Look, I can think of a couple of boarding schools. I'm talking about huge boarding schools who've got a huge amount of space. You know, you think of Hilton College, think of Michael House. They've got these huge grounds. They could put up this huge system which would produce enough food for the entire school. And on top of that, the kids could be learning about a way to produce food at home. This is absolutely mind-blowing. I will speak to the rector of Michael House about this and see if he wants to speak to you, because I think that this is absolutely, it is so on the money. It's extraordinary.
No, it is our deputy principal who started this project. We had the swimming pool, and we must actually give gratitude and thanks to our previous learners. Round about the 1970s, 1980s, they actually invested in the swimming pool. Now, unfortunately, it was a swimming pool meant for swimming. But as time moved on, COVID, we know the whole process, finances actually dipped a bit. So we actually had to reinvest the swimming pool. It was a white elephant. We had the money to sustain it, but rather by paying 6,000 Rand a month, so let's say $800 a month for chlorine, keeping the pool clean, having somebody clean it, keeping it safe, we can reinvest that money into something we can actually make a profit from, reinvest into the learners, reinvest into the community. As you said, the larger schools, they have the space, they have the facilities. Why not teach the learners something they can actually use, not just after school, until the end of their life? It's skills they can actually teach their grandchildren one day. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I was just looking at a comment in the side chat, and Eddie said, "You can't produce meat in a hydroponic garden." Well,
you can't produce meat, but you can produce things that can replace it, beetroots, etc. So yes, I agree. Sorry.
You know what's so fantastic about the system is that you are in control of the produce. When you go into Woolies or to Pick and Pay or one of the supermarkets and you buy a lettuce, you don't know if that's been through all sorts of chemicals and stuff like that they spray on farms. You're producing this at home. You know it's organic. It doesn't have any chemicals or anything like that on it. It's actually your food. You produced it, and you eat it. It is absolutely fantastic.
No, I agree with that. And as you said, it's hands-on. There's nothing in life as good as you actually making something that you grew yourself. Actually getting the produce you put effort into. This is mine. I did this. This tomato sauce I'm making. This al dente pasta. Everything I did is me.
Yeah.
It came from my garden. Sorry?
Yeah, I just want to go into the scaling of this, because you've got an Olympic-sized pool. Not everybody's got an Olympic-sized pool in their backyard. Now that's, 25 meters by about 10, something like that. And from that, how many plants can you produce, or what volume of food can you produce from an Olympic-sized pool?
Okay, that's a very difficult question with a very difficult answer. It depends on the type of crop you're growing and depends on the type of fish you have. Obviously, certain crops need more space, certain crops need more nourishment, fish, etc. With the tomatoes we are planting, we produce usually a couple of hundred at a time. So if I have to say now, the last count was around 250 plants.
Right. Okay.
So if you do something smaller, like say if you went peppers or you went chilies or you went onions, not onions, they actually a little bit more difficult, but anything with a root, you can grow it, but it depends on the size of the crop, the size of the plant, the amount of time you have. It can go from a couple of hundred to thousands, depending on your space, the volume, the size, the type of fish you have, the type of equipment. It can either be very small or very large.
Right. Just on the space issue, I mean, this is, again, one of the things I love about aquaponics and hydroponics is that you can actually, just like you have blocks of flats, you can have the plants one on top of the other in layers. So you can actually use space so effectively, can't you?
If you look at the world now, industrial farming has gotten rather important and rather popular. The same with aquaponics. If you look at Woolworths, if I can mention them again, if you look at their factories, the plants are layered above one another. Then with the whole filtration system, the water is pumped to the top, it filters down from the top to the bottom, and as it filters, all the plants get their nutrients, and the water is oxygenated again by the plants, and it moves back to the fish. So where at a conventional farm, the most space you have is the earth beneath your feet. If that earth is fully occupied, you're done. But with aquaponics, you can layer it. So 1 meter can actually become 7 meters stacked upon one another.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is just absolutely amazing use of space. And for anyone who's got a suburban backyard, and especially if they've got a
Mm.
pool, uh, they're there. They just have to put a few things together. Now, talking about that, Ruann, you mentioned that you've got a document that you'll have put together in a couple of weeks, which you're going to send to us, and we will attach below this video as a PDF, where people can actually read up as to how to set up their own aquaponic system. Do you want to take us through that?
As I said, we're a school, so we're not just taking learners to the swimming pool and saying, okay, this is what we're doing. We should actively teach them, which means every subject is getting involved, setting up documents, setting up lesson plans, setting up things that involve aquaponics and hydroponics. This is not just a fun project. This is something, an investment for the future. So we are busy setting up manuals, documents, things we can supply to the learners, the parents, the community, people who want to get involved with this. During this week, there's actually an old age home visiting our school as well, trying to get involved. How are we doing this? Because they want to implement it at their place as well. So these are things we need to give them in hand. It's easy to say, okay, here's a barrel, here's a fish, do it.
Mm.
But actually teaching someone how to do this, how to implement it correctly, how to actually harvest your first crops, how to reharvest, how to replant, do the whole process, that's a little bit more difficult, and that's where we come in as a school. We're trying to develop this on our own with the help of the Department of Education, but because it's something new, we are the forerunners, we are in front of technology, we're trying to do this the first time. So it's something new, it's something exciting.
Right. Now, you mentioned a moment ago the right sort of fish. What sort of fish do you use in an aquaponic system?
Okay, depending on where you are on the world, the first thing you'll have to look for is climate, cold water fish, etc. It's depending on where you are. You can't use the wrong fish, as you've mentioned. They will die. They will perish. So we're actually looking for koi's at the moment, and you can use the Afrikaans word for barber. It's English as well, barbel. But we're trying to invest in because of the size. They don't take up much space. They eat almost anything. They're quite easy to maintain.
Right. And where does one get those fish? Do you just go to the local fish shop? I mean, the pet shop, rather?
I won't advise a pet shop. We have specialized suppliers that actually farm with fish. Mm-hmm. I forgot the name now, excuse me. But their whole purpose is to farm fish. From eggs to fish, so we buy it from them. They're specialized. They give us special prices per weight, per size, per kilogram, the whole shebang. I won't advise you going to a pet shop. Those fish are not meant for this. They will probably die. They cannot produce enough excrement. They are not the right size. They're not the right climate. They need special care. They're beautiful to look at, but they're not beautiful to farm, unfortunately.
Right. So the choice of fish is critical to the whole system.
Exactly. Think of a normal farmer, Scott, if I can say it like that.
Yeah.
You cannot use any fertilizer for any crop.
Yeah.
Tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, it differs. So choosing the correct fish is important because you need the correct amount of fertilizer for your crop. If the fish is too small, not enough food for your plants, and the plants won't grow. The fish will probably die if there's not enough oxygen. So this is a very, very, very tricky subject, but with planning, correct prepping, and actually doing some research, it can go fluidly and perfectly.
Right. Now, obviously you need a pump, don't you, to pump the water up so that it then flows down through the plants. You could use possibly a solar hot water system to actually drive that pump?
Again, yes, you can. That will be ideal because that's more saving. Again, it's another investment, but it's return on investment. The solar pump, if you want, what we've been using for the smaller pool is these pop-up swimming pools you get. They come with a small pump as well. That's just to filter or to pump the water through.
Right.
Then we have our own filtration system. This is not to filtrate the excrement. This is the leaves, anything that should not be in there, anything that a paper bag, something that falls in, just to filter that out. But we have two swimming pools. One is a very small one that was for children's swimming pool, and then there's the larger one. We're using the swimming pool's pump that's included because it's a very large pool. Your over-the-counter pump will not work. For the smaller one, we're actually just using Went2 Macro. It's a large store in South Africa. We bought a pump there, and we're pumping it through that, filtering it through that. You take out the filter because you don't want the excrement removed, but you just want the water to be circulated.
Right. Now one of the critical parts of a successful aquaponic system is the pH of the water, because if the pH is at a wrong level, then you're not going to actually produce nitrogen, which is basically the fertilizer for the plants. You're going to produce another chemical, which is actually not going to help at all. Do you want to take us through the importance of the pH within the water? And this, again, is where the hands-on aspect for kids is so important, because they're learning about chemicals, they're learning about how different chemicals are produced, and it's just fascinating. Back to you.
Okay, let's go back to basics and exactly what you said. Let's start at pH. The first thing is the safety of the fish. You cannot have a pH level that is dangerous for the fish. Sometimes if something is too sour, alkalic, or whatever, it damages the environment for the fish. So first we take care of our fish because they are the living symbiotes of the system. Then the second one is the nitrogen. If the fish are happy, the fish are alive, if everything is safe for them, then we must make sure that there's enough nitrogen, enough excrement produced, that it is beneficial for the plants. Now, how do we do this? Unfortunately, there is a bit of chemical, there's a bit of testing, there's a bit of using around water that's close to us. We have a doctor that's starting to work at the school now. She's a parent of the school, and she actually helps us drive. She helps us test the water. She actually is going to get involved on a daily basis to test the water to ensure that everything is A-okay, not just for the fish, for the nitrogen and for the plants. It might be a bit above my head. As I said, I'm not actually a fully science teacher, so I'm more of the technical part. But so the basic is there's a certain pH level that we need to reach.
Right.
How do we reach this? By throwing in certain chemicals. You can buy them over the counter. You can get them at specialized shops. But the main thing is to keep the fish safe, to ensure that enough nitrogen is produced. If the pH level differs too much, the nitrogen is either destroyed or it becomes so overabundant that the fish suffocate. So that's the main purpose. Sorry if that's not a very in-depth answer, but that's the best I can give you now.
Yeah, no, that's fine, because it is fascinating that if you don't get the pH level right, the whole system is basically at risk. So the pH is such a key part of it. Now, let's just continue on. The involvement of the community, training and exposure to facilities. It's not just the kids that you teach about aquaponics, is it? You actually have perhaps parents coming through and learning about how effective the system is?
This is where I actually get goosebumps. When we started this whole project, it was mainly focused on the school.
Yeah.
Our idea was, how can we help the learners? But the more we got the learners involved, our immediate community, they don't even have children at the school anymore. They came a knocking. They decided, how can we get involved? How can we learn this? How can we do this?
Yeah.
We see this in the newspapers. We see it advertised. And parents have actually come over weekends, show us, teach us, please, we want to learn. So as I said, this is where I get goosebumps. This is where the broader community, people you'll never meet, people who are not even involved in our school, they actually said, okay, let's go there and let's learn. As I said, we have an old age home coming to our school. People that are not at school anymore at all, maybe grandkids.
Yeah.
But they want to learn. So I'm not saying they're old, please, before I get stoned. They're actually young at heart and they want to learn. Because there's a saying, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but I can differ. They're coming and they want to learn. And these are people, as I said, they're not even in school. Parents, adults, learners out of school, they're coming back and saying, please teach us. This is something I should have learned. Why wasn't this learned to me in school? Why don't I have these schools? This is where our education department is failing, because we're not teaching skills we can actually use on a daily basis.
Yeah, and the beauty about this whole system is that it's so, if I can put it this way, green friendly. You know, it's not damaging the environment. It's a perfect solution for food, isn't it?
If we implemented the correct way, which we are really trying to do, this is a zero waste system.
Yeah.
The water is not wasted. The fish are not wasted. The food is not wasted. Everything can be reused. You can't mess up the water too much. It's there. You can't mess up the fish too much if you do it correctly. If you mess it up, if you use the wrong pH level, the wrong crops, everything, then it can be a disaster.
Yeah.
But as soon as everything falls into place, as soon as the puzzles link, this is a system that can continue growing on a daily basis. And as you said, this is a zero waste system. The water, if a normal farmer irrigates his plants, that water goes into the earth, maybe it reaches a river. In a couple of years, it'll rain again. That water will come back some way, somehow. With our system, the water stays here. It's the same water over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's a return on investment on a daily basis.
Right. Now, you're also really at the forefront of technology, aren't you? Just take us through the technology aspect of aquaponics.
As we said, we're the first school to actually implement this on this size. So there's no other, I can't say competition, but there's no other basis, there's no other sources of reference we can use to actually link us up with this. We have the hydroponics, the aquaponics.
Yeah.
As I said, we teach IT, we teach electronical studies. Everything we now design, everything we are starting to develop is based on aquaponics, hydroponics. It's something new, which means we're at the forefront, we're there. We're the first people onto the breach. We actually need to test, implement, and get it correct for all the other schools. So we have digital whiteboards, we're planning, we're drawing on classes, we're actually developing new technology, if I can say it like that, to implement this on a school level. On an industrial level, this has been done.
Yeah.
On a community level, this has been done. But at a school level, this is something new. We need to make it basic and easy enough for a learner, somebody 13, 14 years old, to understand. This is not an engineer. They're not people who studied engineering or farming. These are children. And we need to design something new ways to teach them and have them apply this at their homes.
Right. Now, if for example, is a teacher watching this video and he's saying, gee, I'd like to implement that at my school, are you happy for them to contact you and basically get the information they need to get that started?
What would be the use of this if we're not willing to share? If we don't share, who will? They can contact us, we can talk, we can work together.
Yeah.
More hands make lighter work. The more we implement this, the more the Department of Education, the more the country can see there's a need, there's a use for this.
Yeah.
If we live in a bubble, how are we helping anybody but ourselves? So if anybody wants to get into contact, it's easy. Call us up, send us an email.
Yeah.
Get our info, we'll help.
Well, the actual image I used at the very start of the video actually has all your contact information on it, so people can just phone you or send an email or whatever. Now, okay, we've talked about the hands-on aspect when it comes to the learners, or I used to call them students back in the day, but okay, let's use the word learners, which is used in South Africa. How is their involvement in learning about aquaponics helping them in other subjects and their results?
The main part is practical, implementation. If it's practical, they can implement it. When we do mathematics, tariffs, systems, they can actually see, okay, this is how much it costs me. This is how I can work out when I'll make a loss, when I'll make a profit. Economical sciences we spoke about, chemistry we spoke about, pH levels, biology. So they can actually see this is not just textbook knowledge. This is real life application. This is something learners want to be involved. They want to see, they want to do, they want to touch. This is how we humans are made. If I look at my baby girl, she wants to feel things with her hands. She wants to experience. And this is not something that just goes away the older you get. So when a 13, 14-year-old, they actually go and they said, look, so I made this, I did this. You can see them getting more interested in different subjects, helping them academically, helping them, this is my purpose in life. This is something I can do.
Right. Now, I've looked at the images that you sent me, and I think it's amazing how you've used the infrastructure around the pool, where you had the seating, which is sort of going up in layers. You now got your containers where you put the plants, and then there's a little pipe going down to the next stair. So you're actually using the infrastructure around the pool to actually help develop the entire system. Who actually designed? Was this your work that you put all this together?
No, that'll be incorrect for me to say I'll take all the credit. This is actually our principal and our vice principal. They were the main driving forces behind this, and then the rest of the school said, okay, we're buying into this. we'll get involved. Everybody has some sort of, I've got an idea for this, I've got an idea for this.
Yeah.
But to be honest, our vice principal and principal, they said, this is a problem, we have this expense, we need to do something about it. So they started the whole designing, and it started as a hobby. And then when they said, okay, this can actually work, and then more and more people, it started to snowball. More people, more teachers got involved, more classes. And when we saw it, okay, this was something small. Look at this huge project we have now.
Yeah.
So in all honesty, all the respect to our principal and vice principal.
Right. Okay. Now, talking about this project, tell us about the size and location at the school, because obviously that's a critical part of this, isn't it?
Okay, so to be honest, we're in Southern Gauteng Vereeniging. We're in the Old Fall Triangle. It was a very economically rich region a couple of years ago when the metal industries were here. So it has gone a bit downhill. This is why we're starting to reinvest. We need new ways, new initiatives to empower our communities. Now, we have a very large school, 22 hectares. It's a large school.
Right.
A lot of hockey fields, a lot of rugby fields, a lot of everything, as you said. So we looked at how we can reinvest this space. How can we use this to benefit not just ourselves, but our hostel, our community? And we saw the swimming pool. That's where this whole process started. But maintaining and using a 22-hectare school in the Southern Gauteng, where things are going quite difficult, that's our situation. That's where we are located. That's the whole problem. But luckily, we've got smart teachers, smart principals, smart vice principals, and this is the project.
Right. Now, with the funding of this project to actually set it up, was that all done internally by the school, or did you get government grants?
Now, the main thing is this is not a government-approved subject as of yet.
Right.
So we need to invest into ourselves and fund ourselves. So we've basically at fundraisings, trying to get parents involved, trying to get the community involved. We fund ourselves. We hopefully, as this grows, we can sell to restaurants, sell to communities, open a farmer's market, open a shop on the school grounds. Unfortunately, the government does not invest in this yet because it is not a subject they approve of yet. But again, we're trying to get that ball rolling, trying to get them convinced, look at this is what we're doing. So unfortunately, we're self-funded for this project.
Right. Well, look, I think the financial benefits far outweigh the actual investment.
And that I agree to.
Yeah. So in the near future, this project will, for Vereeniging Gymnasium, be a something that's going to bring income into the school, which is amazing, and at the same time teaching the kids. Now, I've got a few questions that people have asked here, and I just want to address the side chat. Guys, if you can please just put your questions into the side chat, and I will put those to Ruann. Okay, now Tokolosh has said hydroponic dacha is worth in excess of 10 million rand per ton. This can truly change lives. Please ask your guest how much can be grown in a double garage in a year.
Okay, firstly, I'm not able to answer that question. I've never grown dacha, so I'm out of my depth. I'll be very honest with you. I don't have information about the crop. I'm not specialized in that. So to give an honest answer, I don't know. It's something I've never grown myself.
Yeah.
I assume you can grow under the right circumstances. There's a lot you can grow. But for me to be able to give you an accurate answer, this many kilograms, this many bushels, this many, I don't know. I've never grown that crop. So to be honest, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I've done a bit, as I said, I've done a bit of research on the internet about aquaponics. And what I've noticed is that there are a lot of people selling systems that are set to go. And, some of them are quite small. If you're, let's say, someone listening is an old fart like me, and you've got nothing really to keep your interest up, what you could do is get one of these small aquaponic systems. You could put your own fish in there. You could grow your own food through it. And that would become like an interest that you could get involved in. So there are all sorts of benefits related to this, when you talk about scaling and size.
If we turn it around, if we go a little bit to a different topic, microbreweries, it's the exact same principle. When all these IPA beers, etc., came on, people started buying their own microbreweries to get themselves interested into this hobby. The
Yeah.
same with hydroponics. So it's the same principle. You can buy something small. Don't expect you'll be able to feed your own family out of something. You'll maybe grow a bunch of tomatoes, a little bit of herbs here, maybe a pepper or two. But that's proof of principle. If you start off small and you can actually see, okay, I like this. This is worth investing money into.
Yeah.
Why not? And remember, that's not money lost. That system, if you upgrade, that system is not lost. You can always reinvest it. You can sell it. You can maybe still even grow more things. You can take it to your local school. That's not money wasted. It's not something you throw into the dustbin. Okay, I'm done with this. I'm tired. The equipment is still usable years and years and years down the line.
Right. Okay, I'm just copying a few of the questions that are coming through across here. Marlena de Villiers has said, do they only grow one variety or type of veg at a time, or can you grow all sorts of stuff at the same time?
If you have enough prepping time, you can probably grow more than one crop at a time, but I would not advise that. It's easier to maintain one crop because you need to get the pH level right, the correct fish, as we said earlier. Certain crops require certain environments, certain things. Now, when you start mixing, then you're starting to add variables. The more variables, the more difficult it becomes. And it's not to say that tomatoes will grow in this. I've been using these two examples, more tomatoes and peppers, because that's what we've been growing. It's not to say that the same circumstances will go for both. You won't grow different herbs with tomatoes because they are not conductive. They don't benefit each other. The water levels, the amount of water you have to push through the pumps, everything differs. So I'd advise caution when growing more than one crop at a time.
Right. Now, Victoria McDonald's asked a very interesting question. I actually asked you this question earlier as well. And that is, would there be enough fish to eat some? So in other words, would they reproduce if you had, let's say, a swimming pool converted into a fish tank, and you could, from time to time, pull one of the bigger fish out and then eat that for a meal?
The question is, why not? You can. We as a school, we don't.
Yeah.
We try, as I said, we have koi's and barbers, so we try to sell them. We try to grow them large enough. That is our return on investment as well. If we sell it for 5,000, 6,000 Rand for a fish, koi's are expensive, then we can reinvest that, more equipment, more things. If you have, and you can replace the fish, that's the important thing. If you can replace the fish, why not eat them? It's food, it's protein. But the problem is the more you eat, the more you need to replace. It needs to be sustainable. So be careful to not go full hungry and eat all of your fish, because then you're sitting in a problem where you don't have fish for the plants.
Right. Well, just sticking with the fish. Okay, we've said that you've got to be careful what type of fish you actually invest in, because you don't go to the pet shop. You go to, if you could give me that information later as to where people can get the right fish, that'd be great.
With everything I send through to you, I'll send those links through as well. The sources we use, everything. It's open for the public anyway, so why not?
Fantastic. All right, Dan Berryman has said, would it not be easier just to net off a large section of the Vaal River and work there? pH will always be correct. Is that correct?
To be honest, are you sure? Have you seen the amount of human waste in the Vaal River these days?
Don't go there.
So it's not a controlled system. If I'm honest, sorry about that. At our school swimming pool, yes, I agree. In a perfect world, why not? I agree with him. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
But in the location we are now, is that truly best? Can we control the water coming in? Can we control the waste going out? In a controlled environment like a swimming pool, we can say what we put in and we know what we take out.
Yeah.
But in a natural system, yes, it's perfect if it's clean, if it's natural. But the Vaal River system,
Not
can
so
we say
good.
the same?
No.
Can we say the same?
The Vaal Triangle. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. That's the problem, Scott. That's the problem.
But if you lived in the foothills of the Drakensberg, where the rivers are beautifully clean, I mean, that would be a perfect spot, wouldn't it?
It's natural. The fish will easily procreate. They will produce more fish. So that is a perfect environment. That's the perfect ecosystem. Why not? That I can agree to.
Absolutely. Okay, now John Moslin's asked, Is aquafarming feasible in South Africa?
It depends on your hands-on approach. If you just want to leave it outside and not look at it, no. But if you actually invest time, a couple of hours a week, maybe an hour a day, yes. But unfortunately, it is an investment. There is some funds involved. You need to buy the equipment. You need to buy the correct things. But it is possible. It is feasible. If you want an example, come to Vereeniging Gymnasium. We're doing it.
Right. And your contact details that I mentioned just a while ago are available in the image that actually goes before you actually go into the video. So people can always phone you or send an email or whatever. Now, I've got one final question for you, and I'll be wrapping up this live stream shortly. Charlotte Smith has asked, I try to grow tomatoes in the pool with the creepy crawly on, and I try a big bucket with a water pump. The plants grow, but very, very slowly. Why?
The first problem, the creepy crawly. It's the material, the excrement, the nitrogen. It doesn't really reach the tomatoes. They're floating above it. There's no moving water. There's no process that actually forces the excrement, the nitrogen, past the roots of a tomato plant, which means they get some when they rise to the top, but there's not enough. It's not concentrated enough to actually feed those plants. So I understand with the creepy crawly and everything, but remember, a pool is now cleaned. That water is filtered through sand, through the pump, everything. So there's not enough minerals, there's not enough nitrogen, not enough fertilizer actually going to her tomato plant. So it will grow, don't make a mistake, but it'll grow very slowly, and the tomatoes she grows, they will be rather small. But the moment she actually has a bit more of the sustenance, the fertilizer going to a tomato plant, it'll grow fantastically.
So the answer, Charlotte, is to get a couple of sharks in your pool and
Why not?
let them create the nitrogen. Now, just one question we haven't touched on. How much does the food for the fish cost? Because that's obviously a cost.
Okay, lucky for us, we're a school, so we have a couple of contacts. It's a bit cheaper. Depending on the amount of fish you have, the type of fish you have, for a month, for us, for koi's and barbers, we pay about 500-600 rand for food, pallets.
So it's really
It doesn't
quite a
sound,
small amount.
for us, for the size, 600 rand might sound a lot, but remember, as you said, we've got an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Yeah.
So it's return on investment. As I said, we're growing a couple of hundred of plants of tomatoes, so it sounds like a lot. 600 rand, I don't have that much. Yes, in the short term, it is much. But the moment you start selling your produce, you actually get return on investment. So that money is coming back into your pocket, and you can eat your own tomatoes.
Yeah, but I guess that they won't be needing to spend 500 or 600 rand because you've got a lot more fish than they will. So it might
A
be
smaller system is a lot cheaper, depending on the amount of fish, but a small system can go 50, 60, 70 rand a month.
Yeah. So ideally, what you're suggesting to people is, if they're interested in this, is they create a very small little system, have perhaps a few fish, see if they like what they're doing, and see if their crops are growing, and then upscale to something bigger.
Exactly, and don't do it on your own. Most of us are friends with our neighbors.
Yeah.
Get your neighbors involved. Make this a small community project.
That's a great idea.
You can make turns. Then everybody, all the communities, every household takes 1 hour a day to actually I'm going to the plants today. Tomorrow is your turn. And remember, it doesn't just benefit yourself, it benefits everybody.
Yeah.
Community spirit is just as good as the produce we produce. If everyone is positive, we can help one another. This actually reflects well, not just to yourself, but to your neighbors as well. So you can start growing and increase in size. This is not something you have to do on your own. You can do it on your own, but why would you?
Yeah.
You can use your community.
Look, I just want to say in wrapping up this live stream, Ruann, that I think this is a absolutely brilliant concept, and I wish you every support, and I'd love to see this thing going viral across South Africa. When I talk about viral, I'm talking about the aquaponics, going into schools, going into backyards, because one of the things we talk about here a lot on Loving Life is the predicament that people are in when you look at what's happening in the world today. And prepping is so important. I have advocated to people who watch a Loving Life that they have at least 3 or 4 months worth of food. Now, if they can be producing their food in the backyard through an aquaponics system, that just changes everything.
It does, and as I said, it's zero waste.
Yeah.
So it's a system that can sustain itself. As you said, the world is changing. If you look what's happening in Europe now, we don't know what tomorrow will bring. Prepping is important, but not just prepping, knowledge as well. You can have 3 or 4 months of food in your cupboard. I agree with that. That's fantastic. But what after? What are we doing after those 3 or 4 months? So this is the whole program, our incentive now, our initiative. What happens after? What will happen next year? How do we get there? How do we ensure our learners and South Africa as a whole can survive, can actually go that one step further?
Right. And just for everybody who watches this video, Ruann is very happy for you to give him a call or send him an email, and he will help you get started. All right, Ruann, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. We might not have all the answers at our school. This is something new, but we're willing to share. We're willing to help. So if you have more knowledge, please contact us. Any advice, anything you can give to us as well. This is a two-way street. If there's something you can improve for us, if there's some better method, some better crop, something you can add to us, we will open arms accept you. And other way around as well. If there's something we can do for you, if there's some tips you need, some photos, some videos, something we've done, the documents I've said, please contact us. We'll share it easily. This is not just for us, this is for the world, for South Africa.
Fantastic. Ruann, thank you once again, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good evening, everyone.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out with showing the images you sent me and those 2 little video clips you sent me. And
you're more than
we'll
welcome.
Wrap up the live stream. All righty, take care, and bye for now.
Thank you, Scott. Goodbye.
Okay, guys, I'm going to now just bring on the photos that Ruann sent me, so that we can actually have a look at those. And this is from the Vereeniging Gymnasium. Here we go. That's the system I was talking about, where they've used the steps around the pool to actually facilitate the plants and the way they're sorted. All right, guys, that's the photos that were sent to me by Ruann, and have a great evening. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we'll be live again on a totally different subject. And most nights at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, here on Loving Life, we cover just about everything and anything. So please do remember to register on lovinglifetv.com to be kept informed. And if you do register, you get our daily newsletter, which gives you all the updates of what's happening in the world today. The one we sent out this morning had something like 40 independent links, and probably about 15 of them were videos, with covering a whole lot of topics which relate to what's going on in the world today. Obviously with a focus though on South Africa. Cheers guys, I will go out with Hier bly ek boer, as is our tradition, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Here we go.
Meer as 61,000 van ons voorvaders het op die grens vir ons gesterwe, sodat ons vry kan wees. Die is my land, die is my reg, hier is ek boer. Van stof is ek gemaak en sal ek terugkeer. Die Bybel is die woord waaruit ek leer, soos die grond op die aarde. Hier bly ek boer. So diep in die nacht sal die vyand kom, maar hier bly ek staan en ek draai nie om, want jy maak my nie bang nie. Hier bly ek boer. Die is my land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoor wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voer. Hier bly ek boer. Soos 'n blaassam in die somer wat vreugde bring, my oupa wat maniekiero kon sing, soos hy stap deur die lande. Hier was hy boer. My wortels lê diep in die grond geplant. Hy sien soos my pa, los ek vir jou die land, en jy hoef nie te vrees nie. Hier sal jy boer. My land waarvoor ek sal veg. Die is my bloed, my sweet, my reg. Die is die plek waar my voorvaders leef. Die is my land, hoor wat ek jou sê. Die is my land, wat my mense voer. Hier bly ek boer. Die sal kom, die leeu 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 sal kom.